Herb. Herb is a plant. I mean, herbs are good for everything. Herb.
Welcome to Eugene Cannabis TV. We've got a special show tonight with some special guests. We've got Reverend Will down on the end, one of our regular social commentators. Is that what you call it? Is that your title? Or?
Yeah, it's as good as any.
And then we have a special guest from Southern Oregon, our good friend Blue Whale. Blue Whale, I've known for many years, and so has Reverend Will. I always think of Blue Whale and Hemp Fest he had a one-day event up in Portland one time at the Crystal Ballroom, was that it? Or what was the name of that?
Paris Theater.
Yeah, neat old place down by Saturday Market in Portland. And what was that white? You saw that your white hemp suit? That was a striking outfit.
Yeah, top hat.
Top hat. Yeah, it was wow, what an outfit. So it was a neat event. So how are things going in Southern Oregon? I understand we lost our High Hopes farm down in Oregon, and are people hurting? Major patients? Have you heard any ramifications of all
No,
that?
I haven't really heard too much about that, but on the one hand, people are aware of what's happening, but on the other hand, there's also a lot of apathy. So that's what I do. Basically, I educate people about Measure 80, that it should be legalized, and just educate them one person at a time.
Yeah, I read recently 24% of registered voters don't even know that there's a legalization initiative on the ballot. So we not only have to educate people that there is an initiative on the ballot, but also that people need to register to vote. And this is real important. They have to register to vote before October 16th to vote in the November 6th election. So it's very important.
The other part of that is that the reason that people in Southern Oregon might not be talking about High Hopes going down as much as they could be is because some of the people who had investment in High Hopes coming back, a return, are from here.
Yes, yes.
We have people from here who were definitely patients at High Hopes who have had a good crop a year ago, and now they have nothing.
Yeah, High Hopes is a very organized farm. He actually had a couple of legislatures come down, and he gave them a tour of the facility. They were very impressed and very positive about the program and the farm. And then the feds turned around and busted it.
Well, see, this is one of the reasons I say this is where the Attorney General is so important, because the Attorney General, as the person who interprets the law for the state, has the right to tell the federal government to stay out of this business, out of our business. And yet they choose not to do it. And part of that, I'm sure, has to do with Kitzhaber and his whole thing. As a doctor, he doesn't feel that he has a right to support this because it's a venture that's not been proven. Yet at the same time, we have all these millions and billions of dollars that are being raised to fight cancer, and they're looking in the wrong area. I do not understand why all of these people who have cancer patients in their family are not up in arms about the fact that the federal government's lying to them about something that could possibly save family members. I mean, it doesn't matter how much money you put in the research if you're researching the wrong area, and the cannabinoids are it.
So, yeah, where's the outrage? That's just it. We have a demonstration downtown for this kind of thing in front of the courthouse, and we have 12 people there.
That's right.
We should have 112 or 200.
Oh, no, it's major people.
But anyway, we keep plugging along and just fighting for the truth. And oh, by the way, back to High Hopes a little bit. I don't know if you knew this or not, but High Hopes actually puts out a catalog for their patients. A full-page color catalog with pictures of each strain, the description of the strain, and about half of them are certified with test numbers from like M-Scale and those testing.
So trying to do it so that the patient is getting the most information they can about the medicine that can help them, and they get slapped down by the federal government. Now, if this doesn't show you folks how the federal government is having to stop things like this Because if that word got out, that the M scale and everything else is working in a way where a patient is able to know how much of a product that they're supposed to do, then we're taking the steps that are supposed to be taken by the pharmaceutical company, but we don't have a pharmaceutical company behind us. What we're trying to do is get back to the organics, the basics. Valerian root for, you know, Valium. And things. I mean, that's the best example that I can think of right there is, you know, you take valerian root and it's organic and you can take it without the side effects. You take Valium, you got people who are abusing it, being addictive and hurting themselves.
Are you familiar with M-scale?
No, I'm not.
M-scale is a thing that a guy here in Corvallis started. Basically, I had to listen to the presentation about 3 times before I could even describe it. But it's a really neat deal. What it is, it's a scaling system that you can scale certain strains of cannabis, and it's a scale that it's designed to where everybody can understand it. Patient, doctor. Anybody, it's not even a professional person. It's supposed to be, it's just this universal scale. And what they do is, as a grower will take a sample of, say, take an ounce of their strain. They'll give it to the M-scale people. They give them, I don't know, a couple $100 as a fee. What they do is they take that sample and break it into, take that ounce, break it into small samples, bag it, and number it with a anonymous number, and then they give it to patients. They give them a whole bunch of these little samples, and they ask them to test that sample and then go through this sheet and rate it on all different things. And then all this is compiled in the computer. So more and more patients are testing all these samples, writing out their analysis, and when it's all put in the computer, and the computer puts it all together, and it comes out with the M-scale. And that way, you can look at a medicine, look at the M-scale, figure out whether it's good for pain, not good for pain, and that kind of thing. You know, it's really exciting, but I don't know what happened to them the last 6 months. They're nowhere. I don't know, so I don't know what's going on.
Well, it's just like with Kannabosm, you know, we don't really know what's happening because we don't really want to bother the people because they're already being bothered by this. And that may be, we don't know, but it may be the same thing that's happening with M-scale.
It could be. Yeah, this feds is really messing with the whole program. And this thing, and just this high hope farm we mentioned in Applegate that got busted, there's at least 200 patients that have lost their medicine. Here we are looking at summer harvest. They're all set for the winter, and now all of a sudden their medicine's gone. So now they're going to have to make this up from somewhere.
Right. So it's like if the feds were really trying not to so much make a point by taking our herb and being able to basically piss on it because we can't do anything with it, it's all going to be lost, you know, that they could have done this at the beginning of summer. You know, and just gone in and say, excuse me, you know, we understand that you got 200 patients and we're telling you that you don't have a right to do this. Then we can go to court and we can decide whether or not we can and possibly have an injunction so that these people would still be able to get their medicine this year. But because we get no respect from the feds in any way, shape, or form, they just come in here, they wait until it's right near the end of the harvest, and usually this is a longer harvest than most because we've had this really excellent weather. Otherwise, we would have, at this point in time, been just harvested. It would have been harvested. It would have been gotten to the patient. So they came in right at the last minute in order to be able to do that.
The consensus is the reason the feds are stepping up their raids in Oregon now is because of I-80 coming, and they want to present marijuana in the worst possible light. So by having all these busts, you know, they're just trying to make it look bad. And it's,
right, but the whole thing is that once again, if they told the truth, if they said that there's 200 patients and it's broken down into 6 plants per patient and that it's a whole crop for a whole year, so instead of getting an ounce a month or 2 ounces a month, they get the whole kit and caboodle at one time.
Right. Oh, yeah. In fact, I can't remember, the legislature 2 years ago, the Oregon State Police put together a PowerPoint presentation on the abuses of the Oregon Medical Marijuana Program. And one of their examples of abuse was they showed 2 narcotic officers standing in front of a 20-foot plant, and they were showing the size of that plant, and that was an example of the abuse of the program to them.
Right, and we're sitting here going, this is what we're trying to tell you, that if you would make it legal, I mean, these are female plants. And so if you're going to deal with the male plants and do it in an industrial manner, then we can have 20-foot plants, which is what we're telling you, that we can go back into the woods and restructure it. We can bring the root soil back to life and stuff like this. So they're basically supporting our view, but they're doing it in a way where they're slanting it so, oh, a 20-foot plant, so they can get more than they would supposed to get if they had the little bitty plants that we're saying that you have to have when you can only have it 6 inches high, and then otherwise it's not considered a clone anymore, it's considered an adult. You know, come on, you know, nobody does it. This is why, to me, the ACLU and the Attorney General's office are basically at fault in how the abuse is allowed to go on. The ACLU is doing nothing to get us our civil liberties, and the Attorney General is doing nothing to interpret the law, even though the law, as was stated, is that we are supposed to get our medicine, and if you find an abuse, then you address the abuse, not addressing the abuse in the forefront and giving you any medicine that you might be able to glean out of what they destroy.
Oh yeah, in fact, I thought the Oregon legislature, when they were putting up this PowerPoint, they were trying to show the abuse of the system, and now they have all these great ideas about how they're going to cure the abuse of the program by cutting back the number of plants that a patient could have, and et cetera, et cetera.
And how tall they can be and how wide they can be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, but what they failed to recognize is the fact that that one 20-foot plant was an outdoor plant. The reason it was so big, and it was is a once-a-year grow, and the patient has to get their medicine for a whole year from one grow. So when it's an outdoor, if you're indoor, you'll get 3 or 4 grows a year. So big plants, you got to have a big plant to produce the medicine.
Right.
I think it's interesting to note that President Obama and the other guy running for president, they both agree that Obama doesn't call it a drug war anymore. He wants drug prevention and treatment for the people that are using it. He's gone back to that plan, which it doesn't work because prohibition for alcohol didn't work. So they're using the same old tired theme, saying they want to do something, but in actuality, nothing gets done.
It's like Willie Nelson said. He said, if it wasn't for marijuana, he said, I wouldn't have been able to give up the drugs that were really giving me problems, alcohol and tobacco.
See, you know, that's so important, and people don't get it, you know. I mean, when you are having all of the problems that we have right now based out of the hospitals, I mean, their records alone show how many people are dying. And we'll just address that when we come back because we're out of time for the
So we're out of time for this segment, so stay tuned. And like Arnold, former cannabis user, we'll be right back.
Thank you.
Okay, we're back, just like a bad debt. So we're here talking about Measure 80 in Oregon and cannabis and where we're heading and where we want to be.
Right, well, one of the things is getting that Attorney General in there because at least this way we have an opportunity where we can talk to her about possibly getting the feds under control. Good. Did everybody forget that that's how we ended up over here, was leaving King George because he was taxing us and telling us what to do and stuff? And
so.
Now we got the feds doing the same thing and we're allowing it to go on.
Yeah, it's Ellen Rosenblum. She is acting Attorney General of the state of Oregon now, and she's running for election for the office. So it'll be November 6th. Be sure and register by the 16th so you can vote in the election and vote yes on Measure 880 and vote for Ellen Rosenblum.
Exactly. We got her name right finally. We have her name right now.
Yeah, we got a name. I've learned her name. I was Rosenblum. And I met this lady, and I'm very impressed with her. I don't like judges, and I like lawyers even less. I have some hope. I think she's going to be all right. I
think we ought to point out also that there's some misconception that convicted felons that are out of prison can't vote. If you're a convicted felon in Oregon, you can vote.
That's right. By the way, I've had people tell me that that's what they're telling them coming out of prison.
Right.
In Oregon, they're
Well,
telling them they can't
I heard
vote.
that.
That's a
and
lie.
For the longest time, I heard that.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Yeah.
what happened when I came out.
Yeah.
They were telling me that I couldn't vote, and I said, "You're wrong."
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, anyway, felons can vote in Oregon, so we're trying to get the word out as much as we
Yes.
can. Thank you for bringing that up. I printed my notices for my booth to that effect. We got to get that word out. And so, Will, you want to talk about the Grange? Now, you talking about in the state now, and we got two Granges. You talking about the casino, or are you talking about the farmer group?
I'm talking about the casino, and
Okay.
the only reason I'm talking about the casino is because if you take the word Grange out and you put the word cannabis in there, the things that they talk about, this guy coming on TV and saying, "Oh, I haven't had a job, and I'm not, I need a job, and I'm going to have a job if the Grange goes through, and so will so many other people." Look, my understanding of the Grange is they still have to come up with millions of dollars in order to make it happen. Well, folks, we've got a solution for you. It doesn't cost you a penny. You make pot legal and you put the farmers that have been standing around idle to work. That's the bottom line. Doesn't cost you a thing. Takes a pen stroke. That's all it does. Takes a pen stroke. Makes it legal. Tell the feds to stay out of here. States' rights, people's rights. The people of this state said that we have a right to have our medicine. The state has said we agree with the people. Yet the state's not doing anything to help us in any way, shape, or form, but giving us a paper card. Okay, and what we want is our medicine, and we're not getting it, as is indicated by High Hopes. Just being, knocked down. Even though legislators are giving it kudos for the way it's being run. So that's the only thing they've ever been able to complain about is the way it's being run, and they're not doing anything to get us our medicine.
I think it's interesting to note that the Oregon Health Department, which has since changed its name, which regulates our marijuana, medical marijuana in Oregon, is one of 3 departments that makes a lot of money for the state of Oregon, but the state winds up taking this money that they make and giving it to nurses, say nurses groups that are anti-marijuana, and groups like this. So you're right, we don't get any help from the state. It's pretty amazing, and we make millions of dollars every year.
Yes, we do, and we could make more if they would just allow the industrial aspect to become a manifest, that we've tried to share this for years, that we have the right to grow it, but the feds keep saying that we can't because we have to have this tax stamp act. Well, that's ridiculous. That's as ridiculous as saying that it's not beneficial for you medically. I mean, we've all seen it. We have friends, family that have recovered from illnesses and stuff. Montel Williams is a classic example, of somebody who, as a Navy SEAL, and has learned how to deal with his pain, since they make such a big deal out of the fact that such a large percentage of the people are saying that it's pain-related that they want to use the marijuana to help them with. Well, excuse me, I'm getting older, and I'm feeling my pain. And I definitely want to be able to control that pain, and I don't want it being done with pharmaceutical meds that do nothing but have side effects that are worse than the actual pain that I'm dealing with in the first place.
Yeah, I can only add to that. I'm a disabled veteran from the Vietnam War, and when I go to the VA, all they want to do is prescribe more prescription drugs. Every time it's another prescription drug. But there was a move to try to get medical marijuana into the VA system, and the VA shot it down. But yet, when I smoke marijuana, it levels my stress out and helps my PTSD in a way that the pharmaceuticals don't. Pharmaceuticals have the side effects, where the cannabis doesn't. And I think it's really hypocritical for people to be able to buy cigarettes, coffee, or alcohol, which all these drugs created by our society and is bad for people, but they're legally sold in stores and taverns and coffee shops, and it's amazing. But when you come to what I feel is a miracle, I don't even consider it a drug. That's what it's called, miracle drug, cannabis. which is so beneficial, and it's treated as some type of reefer madness mentality.
Well, you know, when you're talking about that, though, it's like Marinol. They say, hey, man, well, why don't you just use Marinol? Because that's a marijuana derivative. But once again, folks, see, this is what we're saying. We don't want the derivative. The derivative does not work the way the organic is.
It's not a derivative, it's a synthetic.
Well, it's a synthetic, isn't that a derivative?
No, a derivative is it's made from it. It's a derivative.
Yeah.
It's not made from pot. It's completely synthetic.
It's something else,
So it's
synthetic,
not-
yes.
Yeah.
Marinol is not,
Yeah, it's completely
even though
synthetic.
they're saying that it is, because that's what I've been told.
No, it's there's some other things that are being made, pharmaceuticals out of that, but no, not Marinol. In fact, a patient told me that Marinol actually gave them a hangover.
Well, yeah, it's also not helped people, straight up. It's
Yeah,
just been
yeah.
something that doesn't affect their pain or other things like herb does itself, either smoking it or eating it.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is one thing a lot of people don't get is that we have tinctures, we have oils, we have things, even though we're not supposed to have those things, but they work. Okay, so we're going to use them.
And then, by the way, I've seen clinics to where the person is getting a card, no, they're getting a prescription for Marinol so they can pass a drug test.
Interesting paradox.
Yeah, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So, yeah, it's a weird world we live in, as they say, but we keep hoping that freedom will come back, so that's what we're fighting
But
for.
it's-
And, oh, by the way, all three of us are veterans, so...
Yes.
Yes, but what's interesting about Measure 80, they have right in there that it would legalize hemp too, which is already
Yeah.
basically legalized by the state of Oregon, but the DEA has put a hold on it, won't let us grow it.
So once again, even if we make it legal and the Attorney General does not define the fact that the feds cannot come in here and address this, we're still in the same boat. It's just like making the industrial legal but not being able to grow it unless you have a sample, and you can't get the sample without the tax stamp. Here we are having this, even if we have it legal, and the feds are saying, but it's not legal for us, and so they're going to come in and still bust us unless the Attorney General redefines this in a way that says, just leave us alone, we'll take care of this ourselves, so that we can actually get on with. That's why I say the Attorney General is so important in this. More important than the legalization aspect, because my understanding of her position is to interpret the law in the state.
And she's a top law
Yes,
enforcement officer in
right.
the state.
So that's what I'm hoping is that we can get her to understand that her position for us is just, it's imperative, because we're not getting anyone else to listen to us in this process. And in the meantime, the state goes down because we don't have enough people working, unless we have the Grange go on.
Well, the U.S. Attorney has stated that they're not going to bother anybody in Oregon that's within growing what they're supposed to under the medical card. But if you're one plant above the legal limit in Oregon, they're going to come down on you.
You
So
bet.
they have said that.
Okay, we got to wrap this up. A special thanks to Blue Whale for coming to visit us and
Thank you.
making the trip from down south Oregon.
You
And
bet.
Thank you so much.
Good seeing you.
And
Thank
we'll
you.
be back again next week with more information. And stay tuned. We have our friend Joseph coming on and to read one of his latest writings. So read one of his latest writings. So we'll talk to you later, and thank you a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good night.
I want to introduce a good friend of ours, Joseph Canfield, who wants to read one of his latest efforts in penmanship, or composition, I should say. So we appreciate it. Joseph has some really good insight here. So
Thank
go
you.
ahead.
The suppression of the feminine principle over the past 2,000 years has enabled the ego to gain absolute supremacy in the collective human psyche. Although women have egos, the ego can grow easier in the male than in the female. This is because women are less mind-identified than men. They are more in touch with the inner body and the intelligence of the organism, where the intuitive faculties originate. The female is more attuned to the natural world. In time, the ego took over most women, although it could never become as deeply entrenched in them as men. We now have a situation in which the suppression of the feminine has become internalized, even in most women. The sacred feminine, because it is suppressed, is felt by many women as emotional pain. In fact, it has become part of the accumulated pain suffered by women over millennia through childbirth, rape, slavery, torture, and violent death. But things are changing rapidly now. With many people becoming more cannabis conscious, the ego is losing its hold on the human mind. Because the ego was never as deeply rooted in woman, it is losing its hold on women quicker than on men. Thank you.
We appreciate it, Joseph, and there's another writing by Joseph Canfield, a good friend of ours, and written many thoughtful essays and been published in the Registered Guard too, actually. Joseph is a medical marijuana patient, a head injury victim, and it's amazing what cannabis is, how it's helped him in his life, and he talked to in the past about that. So anyway, we're going to wrap up, and we appreciate Joseph coming in, our other guests, and please be inspired by that. You're always welcome to come down to the ectv 29 studios behind Sheldon High School, Monday night, 6:30. Come on by and stop. Come on, say hi. Come on the show, or just come on and visit. Either one, either way, we're glad to have you. So we'll be here next week. You can count on that. And stay tuned and register to vote. I-80.
And make sure you vote yes on Measure 80.
Yes on I-80.
Herb. Herb is a plant. I mean, herbs are good for everything. Why these people who want to do so much good for everyone, who call themselves governments and this and that, why them say you must not use the herb? You see? And we check that and we can't find, we just see them just say, no, you mustn't use it.